What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and happy Saturday to all of you out there. I hope you all have an awesome weekend. In this week's installment of the Saturday Chat and Chill, we're actually going to be playing a little bit of a hypothetical today. So in today's video, we're going to be pretending that I am in charge of the King of Fighters All-Star for 1 year, and I'm going to give you guys what I would do in order to improve the King of Fighters All-Star and try to make the game be in a better spot for 2023 as opposed to where it was in 2022, which was basically EX purgatory. But before we go ahead and get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's just go ahead and get into this week's topic. So the first thing I want to preface this with is this is not just going to be a top 5 list of things that need to be addressed in the game. That isn't what this is meant to be. This is more so meant to be a bit of a cohesive roadmap of what I would try to address if I were put in charge of the game for a year. So you can only address so many things in one video. I'm going to try and keep it to 5 points, right? So if you guys have things that you feel like you would like to address, let me know in the comment section down below what your 5 things would be, what your roadmap would look like, and we can kind of compare notes. However, I want to go ahead and start out with what's the most important topic at hand here for most people, and that's going to be rates and generic memories. And we're going to go ahead and wrap those up into one topic here at the beginning because it's inevitable that we're going to have to talk about it. So if I were in charge of the game for a year, the first thing that I would do is I would address these rates for these EX banners, and there's really no great way of doing it outside of just doing a rate up. So a rate up basically would mean that we could pick one of the 2 characters available at the time, and we could try to prioritize them, right? So what would happen is maybe we get a 1% chance for that character. Say you're trying to get Rugal here, right? And you're tired of getting cock-blocked by Duolon because he's always popping up when you see that yellow flash and you're all excited, and then all of a sudden it's something that you didn't want in the first place. Well, that is something that needs to be addressed going forward because it's been that way for about a year now, and unfortunately, it's just one of those situations where it isn't really conducive of a healthy gacha system, and this needs to be addressed. We've had rate ups in the past. I see no reason we can't have them again. I would definitely like to see them return for the EX banners because I think at this point, if your rates are going to be fixed to such a point where they're not necessarily going to be all that forgiving at all whatsoever in the first place, you should at least be able to try and pinpoint a specific character because let's face it, otherwise what we have right now is hell. So the next thing I need to talk about is generic memories as it pertains to this. Now, I'm going to be talking about that in the next topic more, but generic memories will be coming up here. I would not put them in the mileage or anything like that. I know that's something we've talked about before here on the channel, but with my roadmap in specific, I would not be doing that here. I would simply just try to do something with the rate up system and just move on. So that would be what I would do. And yes, I would do that with the card banner as well. That would be something that I would definitely recommend. So that would be something that I would say would need to happen right off the bat. So now that we've got the rates out of the way, right? We have a rate up system in place for the characters and the cards. Let's go ahead and talk about game modes. Content, because that's really, really important. Now, Boss Showdown, in my opinion, is a really, really good mode. However, we are long overdue for a world raid boss. So the system that I would try to implement with a world raid boss would be as follows. What I would try to do is have it be set up very similar to Guild Raid, right? So basically you have one giant boss over the course of a 2-week season, and with that boss, you are going to have the ability to play him X amount of times a day based on whatever generic item it is that you want to throw at it. Say it's keys like with Guild Raid, just for the ease of trying to explain the system. But say you have a key system like with Guild Raid, where you get X amount of tries each day, you jump in, you do your damage, you're not going to be able to take the world boss down by yourself. It's going to take all of the players in the community playing against this thing over the course of the season in order to take down his cumulative damage bar. And once his HP reaches 0, the entire community gets the prize pool, right? So that way it is fixed when it comes to the prizes. Everybody gets the prizes. It's a once a month thing. Every 2-week season is going to give everybody the same items, and the final reward, the biggest reward for defeating the boss, should be an EX generic memory. I think that these are long overdue. We need EX generic memories in the game. This would guarantee that you get one every month, and it would be something to where the entire community would feel like they need to engage in this new game mode because they know that that EX generic memory is waiting at the end if they all do their part, right? So that's a big deal. I think that if you want to try and get people to play it, having the EX generic memory once a month as the prize, not the only prize, but being one of the prizes, huge if you want people to engage in new content. So that is something I would do. I would not have the debuff system or anything like that. It would just be a straight up raid, like raid boss, like in Guild Raid or something like that. But it would just have a much broader, much bigger HP pool. And maybe you could have it do some crazy stuff too. It's fine, whatever you want to do as far as actual in-game mechanics with it. But as far as the actual structure is concerned, I think that's necessary. The other thing that would do is that would have, as far as that 2-week gap in there when you're waiting for a new banner, basically what you could do with that is you could kind of consider it, okay, we have the world raid boss, whatever you want to call it, season in between whatever the next 2 banners are. So you basically have the world boss, then you have boss showdown with whatever the update is for the new banner, and rinse and repeat, right? So I think that is a really good way to fill that gap in and give us something to look forward to and get people to engage in. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be in-game content as it pertains to what we've already got, and there's a few things I want to talk about. So I think that it is long overdue that we start seeing things such as new difficulties for other game modes. So in my opinion, Immortals need more difficulties. There needs to be something here to where we have bigger and better Immortals. Maybe you just buff up what they're capable of. Maybe you just, I don't know, quadruple their HP. I don't know what you want to do. Whatever it is you want to do, but try to make these things something that is pertinent and interesting again, beyond just clearing them for the first time and them being done, right? So I think that would be something that would be really cool. Things like these guys right here, we haven't gotten any new things in here in forever. I mean, it has been years, and there's so much you can do with just adding in things like new difficulties, things like the story mode. We need more difficulties in story mode as well. So these are things that they could easily implement that need to start being rolled out more often. This is very useful and beneficial for people when it comes to more rubies for free-to-play players who are starved for a lot of those sometimes because of this. I think that this would be really cool because in any game that you play, there's going to be a story mode that is going to be habitually updated over time. Ours very rarely happens. So I feel like this is something that needs to be addressed, even if you don't want to roll out new story mode, like actual new story mode, not just, new difficulties. That's one thing, because I get that there are things that you have to put in new storyboards and all these other things, right? But if you're just doing new difficulties, you don't have to worry about any of that. So I think that that's very important. It would be very useful for all of the free-to-plays out there to have those more regularly, and that is something that needs to be addressed as well. Epic Quest is another one that could definitely use more. I mean, those updates need to come more often. So those are things that I think need to be addressed, but I think that new difficulties and some of these other dungeons, like I mentioned with Immortals, or any of the other things here like the Team Relay dungeon, there needs to be more of this stuff, because I feel like if they just introduced new difficulties to a lot of this stuff, then I feel like that would be really helpful. So the next thing I want to go ahead and talk about, beyond adding new difficulties more often and more story mode, I want to talk about a co-op game mode. So we have had co-op game modes in the past. However, it did not go very well, considering the fact that at the time the connectivity issues were atrocious. So I believe that was the Yamada no Orochi event, if I remember correctly. So with that being said, I think that ever since the Lament of Dream Match, the game is in a little bit more of a stable spot with being able to, especially once they started addressing the netcode, to try to facilitate something like co-op game mode, right? So I think that what needs to happen here is we need a new co-op game mode. This needs to be available at all times, and it needs to be something that is very similar to what we had with Yamada no Orochi, where you have to fight some waves with a friend or with just a random person that you got stuck in a lobby with, or persons, and then you go through those different waves, then you have a boss, you take down the boss, and you end up getting rewards at random. Now, what would I do with this mode though? Because the most important thing that would necessitate why it would even need to be in the game in the first place would be, beyond the fact that it's a co-op game mode that we don't have already, it would also need to have a reward system that makes sense. I think that this would need to be something to where we start to open up and allow us to have more access to things like star and moonstones. Now, I understand that we have started to get a lot more of the materials for those, but being able to go in and get things like hammers, star and moonstones, even elite enhancement hammers here and there, out of something like that, I think we're far beyond having to have all of these different restrictions on some of these items like that and thinking that there's something that's like largely all that rare at this point. So I think that if we had a co-op game mode where we could grind those, and you could even have maybe even stones that are exclusive to that dungeon that just have a very low drop percentage, then I think that that would be a lot of fun. I think it would be something that would entice people to play it. And I think that overall, it wouldn't be a reward system that's overly lucrative or overly slanted towards the player base, and it also isn't overly slanted towards Netmarble either. It's something that we do get, but don't get a lot of, but at this point, feels like we should have more options to get them, and this would give us a system to where maybe even we do it in cycles, like week by week, they cycle in like a color-themed boss, and so basically 1 week we have like yellow boss, blue boss, green boss, and so on, and we get stones that correlate to that from those drops from playing it. I think that that would be really cool, and I think that overall that would be something that could also give more ore, or whatever the case may be, the different items you would need to craft more, so that way you can kind of go in and craft more often and that sort of thing, especially at crafting events and things like that. So that's a lot of fun. I think that that would be something that would not necessarily require you to play it because the rewards aren't so great that you have to play it every day, but it also entices you to play it. And it's a good way to test the co-op system for things that you might want to do going forward. So with that said, that would be what I would do for a co-op system. Now, when it comes to anything else, guys, because at this point we've addressed several things. We've addressed the rates, right? Generic memories are another one. I'm going to roll those into the same thing. We have a world boss. That's really cool, right? We have a co-op game mode, which is something that is a lot of fun for those of us out there that would like to, like, for instance, us YouTubers, play with our community. And then we also have addressed the fact that we need story mode and difficulty updates more often, right? So, with all that out of the way, there's one more point that I want to make as far as things that this game needs to address. So, what I really want to address here is really going to be something that I know it might be a little bit of a head in the clouds thing, but I really would love if we could get time attacks with updates again, right? So put it this way. We used to get during collaborations a unique time attack to collaboration, that the collaboration that we were in, right? Nowadays, we don't get that anymore. We never get that anymore. It's something that I can't even remember the last time we had one. It's been that long. And I feel like this would be something that would give players more rubies, for one, but also give players something to play more hands-on once a day during these types of events, right? I like the little events that they do here and there, like whenever we get the collaboration events or whenever we get the EX events or whatever, we'll get the little mini games sometimes. Those are kind of fun, but really, honestly, a time attack mode instead would be so much better because we would get those extra rubies. And honestly, we used to get it anyway. I don't see the harm in doing it. So what I would do is every time we get an update, just have a time attack that's specific to it, right? Maybe you can only play with the new characters in it, and you go through, you do your time attack, and then you get a few rubies each and every single day just for playing it. And I think that that would be a really cool incentive, and it's a little bit more forgiving for the player base, giving them a little bit more rubies each and every single day. So with that being said, you guys, that is the 5 things that I would do right off the bat if I were in charge of the King of Fighters All-Star for a year. Now again, I know there's a lot of things that you could throw at this. There are a million different things that you could do. I would just say, if you guys have ideas, put them in the comment section down below and let me know what they are, and we can, again, compare notes. But those are the things that I would do, and I think that that would address several things. It would address the rates, which is definitely something that people complain about, and then beyond that, it would give us more in-game content, more rewards, and give us something that kind of brings the player base together a little bit, and gives us something to play as a group. So anyway, you guys, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe on your way out. And until the next one, you all take care. Peace.
Our opinion